Okay, so picture this. It's 1941, and the world is already on fire with war. But the biggest battlefield of them all hadn't even opened up yet. We're talking about the Pacific Ocean, and what happened there set off a chain reaction that would literally change the course of history.
Seriously, just think about how huge the Pacific Ocean is. It covers almost a third of our entire planet. And in 1941, it just explodes into conflict. This wasn't just another front in the war, it was a whole new, terrifying chapter of World War II kicking off.
All right, so where does this all begin? Well, our story starts with Japan, a nation with some seriously big ambitions. And believe me, this conflict didn't just pop up out of nowhere. No way. Its roots go deep.
Yeah, this was more of a slow burn than a sudden explosion. If you look at the timeline, you can see a clear pattern. It all really kicks off in 1931, when Japan starts expanding its empire. Things escalate into a full-blown war in China by 1937, and by 1940, Japan officially picks a side in the bigger global fight. And when we say the Axis powers, what are we talking about? Well, it was a formal military team-up. Japan officially joined forces with Nazi Germany and Italy, and that single move connected the dots, linking the war in Europe and the war in Asia into one giant global conflict. So you have to ask, why? What was driving all this expansion? It really boils down to two huge things. First, resources. Japan is an island nation, right? They had very little oil and other natural resources of their own, and you just can't run a modern military without fuel. The second reason? Pure ambition. They wanted to be the dominant power in the Pacific, and that meant they were on a collision course with the United States.
And an ambition that big doesn't just stay quiet. Let's dig into how all this tension started to boil over.
Whoa, take a look at this. By 1941, Japan's empire was enormous. They'd taken over Korea, huge stretches of China's coast, and even Vietnam. This wasn't a small land grab, it was a massive takeover. And you can bet other world powers were watching and getting very, very nervous.
And this is where the tension just goes through the roof. It became a real back and forth. As Japan continued its brutal expansion, the United States pushed back. Not with soldiers, not yet anyway, but with economic weapons. They imposed sanctions, which basically means they cut off trade. America stopped selling Japan vital supplies, especially oil, the very thing Japan's war machine needed to keep going.
So, with its back against the wall, Japan made a bold and shocking decision. This was the moment there was no turning back.
I mean, put yourself in their shoes for a second. Your biggest obstacle is the powerful United States Navy. What's your move? You know you can't win a long, drawn-out war. So you've got to try for a knockout blow, and it has to be fast.
And this was their answer, a date and a place that would become infamous. Japan planned a massive, daring surprise attack right at the heart of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, Pearl Harbor.
Now, the attack itself was a stunning military success for Japan. They crippled the American fleet. But it was also a catastrophic mistake. In trying to knock America out of the fight, they had just woken a sleeping giant. And now the full industrial might of the United States was officially in World War II.
With the American fleet temporarily reeling, Japan seized its moment. What came next was one of the fastest and most shocking military campaigns in modern history.
I mean, just look at this incredible timeline. In the months right after Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces seemed absolutely unstoppable. One territory after another fell like dominoes. Guam, Wake Island, Hong Kong, then the Philippines and Singapore. They were just rolling across the Pacific and Southeast Asia.
So how did they do it? What was their secret? It was all about teamwork. Their Navy, Air Force, and Army weren't fighting separate little battles. No, they were incredibly coordinated, operating like a single, well-oiled machine that just steamrolled everything in its path.
But a winning streak can't last forever. By the middle of 1942, that incredible advance finally slammed into a wall. Allied forces, we're talking mainly Australian, New Zealander, and British troops, finally managed to dig in and stop the wave. The unstoppable force had met its match.
And that brings us to our final section, and to the one battle that would change everything. This is the moment the entire war in the Pacific completely pivoted.
This is it, the Battle of Midway. It's only 6 months after the disaster at Pearl Harbor, and the U.S. Navy is ready for a rematch. But this time, they had a secret weapon. American codebreakers had cracked Japan's naval codes. They knew exactly where the Japanese fleet was going, and they set a trap.
The results were absolutely catastrophic for Japan. In just one battle, they lost 4 of their best aircraft carriers, the very heart of their fleet. For the Americans, it was the decisive, stunning victory that stopped the Japanese advance cold.
So, Midway wasn't just a victory, it was the great turning point. In a single day, Japan's unstoppable advance was over. From this moment on, they would be on the defensive, pushed back island by island. The entire balance of power in the Pacific had just shifted, completely.
But the echoes of history never really fade. The events we've talked about left deep scars across Asia that, even today, haven't fully healed. It leaves us with a final, crucial question to think about. How do the battles of nearly a century ago still shape the relationships between nations today?